Ripped apart your hands, Patty. Wow. Good morning. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Let me see if I can get my pen to work. We're going to go over the grammar sheet over subject, verb, pronoun, antecedent agreement first. Somehow I do something and I lose the ability to draw in documents. Oh well. Just as a heads up, I went ahead and I moved Grammar Quiz 2 back to next Friday. So you'll have two things going on next Friday. You'll have Grammar Quiz 2 over subject, verb, pronoun, antecedent agreement, and then the final of the compare and contrast essay is set for Friday. I'll probably back it up to Sunday. Just got sitting here thinking, I just have some reading for you to do, so I'll probably push it back and give you the whole weekend to get the paper finished. Just to condense. When I create a syllabus, a lot of times I'm trying to keep your work to the week, but sometimes it helps to push it off. So and once again, my 8 a.m. guys are not here, so. But you should have the page that looks like this, says subject, verb, pronoun, antecedent agreement on it. It's a great document. When you take that quiz, if you have this page, these 2 pages with you, you will make a great grade. I promise you. It is that good. It's got all of this information is actually in the chapter unit, the chapters that have to deal with this, which are chapters 25 and 27 in your e-text, but that's like about 20 pages, and this is all condensed into 2, so it makes it better. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so subject verb agreement, I like to think in my mind that this is the mass of English. Everything has to be equal. And when you say that, what you're saying, if the subject is singular, then the verb should be singular. And if a pronoun refers back to that singular subject, it should be singular in form too. So there's a mass. Everything has to be singular. You can't mix plural and singular together. So we use the word antecedent, and that refers to the noun that the pronoun is renaming. But it can also refer to another pronoun that is being renamed. You know, if you talk about his car, then you'll use he later on, you wouldn't use they. So that's one of those deals going on. Here, this is what you missed getting handed out on, I think. Hopefully that's not 2 copies of everything. That should be. This might be it also. Okay. All right. So antecedent, and an antecedent is also something that comes before. That would be like an ancestor. See the similarity between those two terms? So if the subject is plural, the verb should be plural. The pronouns referring back to it should be plural. And so if I'm talking about the lives of cats and dogs, I have to make sure that lives is plural. You know, everything has to agree. So they give you an example as we move on this one. And it begins with, Bill and Sue drive their cars to school. So Bill and Sue is a plural subject. It's 2 people, so it has to be plural. Drive is plural. Now this is the biggest quirky deal about English. When you're talking about present tense nouns, a present tense verb, you don't have present tense nouns, Patty. A present tense verb, plural, does not have an S on it. So, and that's one of those odd deals about English. So Bill and Sue drive their cars to school. So I have to have, I can highlight it at least for a little bit. So Bill and Sue, there's your plural subject. Here's the plural verb. There is the plural pronoun that refers to them, but notice that it's plural cars, which means they are both driving their own car to school. Each is driving his or her own car to school. See, I'm trying to make sure I have the pronoun and all that agreeing. But again, notice that when you have a plural subject, your verb will not have an S on it, if it's present tense. So now John, singular subject, drives. That's a singular verb. See how it has that S on it? And his car to school. And that's the quirky deal to me, because we think of things with S as being plural. But that's not, verbs are the opposite. And that's because English is such a polyglot of stuff going on, all right? So everything has to match like that. So when you say everyone tells me that they like my hair, everyone, we're going to find out, is always singular. So that's why things have to match. So, and so they tell you that, okay, hold on. My daughter just called. I sent that, sorry, I can't talk right now, and there she's going, oh, that's right, she's teaching. Okay. Remember that nouns and their respective pronouns must agree in person. They must agree in number. That's singular or plural. So if on a paper, when I grade your paper, if you see must match in number, that's what I'm talking about. Number is singular or plural. And then it must also agree in gender, male, female, or non-human. So now we have this wonderful list. So this is a great list, okay? Wait a second. I should have opened it in Adobe. That's why I can't write on it. Okay. It says one word. So if a word has one in it, it's always singular. So one is singular, everyone is singular, anyone and someone is singular. And I used to run into this problem. I would write about everyone and go, well, every is, there's 4 of us in this room, that's plural. But no, because of the one, it makes it singular. Nobody words. How many is body? Body is only 1. So nobody is singular. Anybody, somebody, everybody is always singular. And then you have these miscellaneous words. Neither, either, or each. Add every over there. Write the word in every. I can't write, I would write it right here underneath each, or beside it. I would write every in. And I'm doing that because later on they tell you this. Every is also singular. If I go, every boy or girl in school needs to bring their shot records tomorrow. That's singular. Every boy or girl in school needs. See how singular, that's a singular verb, needs. So, and then they give you some fun stuff, but those are always singular. And I frequently see everyone or everybody as being written as plural. What you have to watch out for now is like this first example. Let me make it a little bit bigger so we can see that sentence. One of my friends serves as a representative for his dormitory floor. The subject of the sentence is one. Draw a circle around of my friends. That is an intervening prepositional phrase. It has no bearing on subject-verb agreement, but what happens for inexperienced writers is that instead of seeing one as the subject of the sentence, you see friends as the subject of the sentence, and you'll go, one of my friends serve as a representative. And that makes it incorrect. So, circle that prepositional phrase, because I guarantee you there will be one like this on the test, where there's an intervening prepositional phrase of some kind. But there are more clues in the sentence that tells you that friends is not the subject, because it says a representative, that's singular. His is singular as well. So there were other clues in the sentence to help tell you that it was singular. The next one is either or either. Either of the girls makes a good choice because of her dependability. It's the same basic sentence, they just changed some words. There's that intervening prepositional phrase. So circle that again. So you'll know, I can't pay attention to those. Either makes a good choice because of her dependability, okay? And you're going to see that a lot of times that intervening prepositional phrase is going to be of. It's just one of those things because we're using it to describe that pronoun at the beginning of the sentence. Now we've got each of the students. See, once again, there it is. Each of the students has responsibility for his own work. Okay? Another example is everyone is expected to take his hat off when the flag goes by. I could change that and say all of the people are expected to take their hats off as the flag goes by. You see how I've changed it? All of the people, all is not singular, all is plural. And we know it because it's renaming people, okay? So that's why you have to go with all of the people are expected. That's why it's plural. And then the last one, nobody wants to take on cleaning the basement as her spring project. Now, I will say, if you've ever read E.E. Cummings, a lot of his poetry, he wrote one called Anyone Lived in a Pretty House Town. He uses pronouns all the time, but actually his pronouns are names. You can't read his poetry and think grammar rules. I'll just tell you that. You have to watch out. That's one of the things you have to watch out with poetry. Grammar rules go out the window. Okay. So down here they tell you one of the problems with this is that you may struggle with pronoun choices and using anyone, everyone, each, those like that. If these words are singular in meaning and the pronoun referring back to them has to be singular, are you supposed to use the feminine or the masculine pronoun in reference to them? And they say using one or the other may insult some people, and it's also awkward using his, her, or his or her, or his / her. Pick a gender and stick with it. And the reason I'm saying that, later on on this second page, they will tell you that you can alternate your genders. But if you're writing me something, like you're writing the narrative, and the first time you refer to your character, you give him a male gender, and then the next time you give him a female gender, that's a new character. So you have to be judicious if you're going to alternate your pronouns that are referring to that indefinite pronoun earlier. So now we're on the second page. So here are some suggestions. And they say if it's workable, try to change it to plural. But if you can't, if you've got to keep it in singular, make sure that everything is there. And here it says, vary your usage of the feminine. Cross off this bottom part of 2, okay? Vary your usage because let's don't do that. You're not going to, you're not going to be writing anything where switching the pronoun is going to be acceptable. Okay. Now we've got this great group, and it's called collective or group words that can take a singular verb when they're talking about a singular and a singular pronoun. If you're thinking of the group as a single unit or whole, but they take a plural verb and a plural pronoun if you're thinking of the individual. So if I talk about, what's the term to use to a group of people in the military writing? Like a squadron? Brigade, okay. And in reality, a squadron, a brigade, a unit, yeah. It can be singular because the unit the unit marches towards Bataan. That's one more I can stick in my head. And that tells you the whole unit marched together. But if I said the unit, I would have to create a different sentence where it made the unit, each individual doing his own thing. The unit cleans their weapons. See how that becomes that means each guy has to clean his own weapon. They're all gonna clean every single weapon together. And that's what they're talking about here. And you can see the list is kind of varied. And I'm gonna give you one more example before I talk about theirs, and that's the word jury. And that's a little bit easier for us to think of it. Because if I say the jury entered the courtroom and takes their seats, the reason I have to use takes is they're not all going to sit in one chair. The jury takes, plural, their seats. They all have to be in individual chairs. But if I said the jury reaches its decision soon, then I've made it one decision, because that's all the jury's going to come up with is one decision. If you have a split decision, they haven't reached one, right? So think of it in terms like that. And so they give you an example down here, and they talk about the team was ready to play its game. Really? You know, the team's going to have, let's see, 5, 9, 11 players on its team. They're not all going to play different games at the same time. They have to play only one game, so that's why it has to be singular. But they were all suited up. The team were all suited up for their pictures. Guess what? They can't all wear the same uniform. They have to be in different uniforms. And the same thing is this. My family is behind me with all its support. Everybody in the family supports you. That's awesome. My family are all scattered, as you can see by their addresses. See how everything in the sentence sets you up for this is plural, and the previous one sets you up for that it's singular. So, on the test, be careful. What might be wrong, I'm not going to change every pronoun reference. I'm going to change, because I want the sentence to do the work. So what you might see is, my family are behind me with all its support. You would see something like that. So, you know, it can't be if it's its. If its tells you it's singular, because its is singular. It's singular possessive. It's not, its doesn't have a plural, okay? And so now they give you some more examples here, or they give you a couple of really good rules. The first one is about the use of constructions like prepositional phrases that come between a pronoun, a noun, a subject, and its antecedent do not change the agreement. So remember how I told you to circle those prepositional phrases? Well, there was also another kind of phrase, and these are non-essential phrases, non-essential clauses. My father, as well as his two friends, enjoys his walk around. I thought I went smaller. I went bigger. How did I do that? Enjoys his walks around the neighborhood. Make sure where I'm clicking my mouse. All right. So, because as well as his two friends is separated off by commas, that's non-essential. It's not necessary to the meaning of the sentence. The sentence reads, my father enjoys his walks around the neighborhood. And then the next one, the chairperson, along with the board members, again, non-essential, believes that her position is correct. Okay? So, you can put like a small little dot beside that one to help you out. This next one's going to need a big one. When subjects are joined by either or, neither nor, or not only and but also, the verb and the pronoun agree with the subject closer to them. Okay? This is what's interesting. So what that says is, it's not what comes after the first, these are paired conjunctions. It's not what comes after the first part of the conjunction that counts. It's what comes after the second conjunction that is important. So look at their example. I'm going to have to make it smaller again. Sorry. It says, during a game, not only the coach, but also the players show their emotions. So don't worry about what comes after not only. Only worry about what comes after, but also the second part. So kind of highlight that, draw a line down there. That's the ones that have to match. We're on the second page. Okay, this is number 2. So, which is kind of good, I'm going to be honest. It's very helpful. Oh, this is the last day of September, isn't it? Okay. And the other one, when you switch it during the game, not only the players, but also the coach shows his emotions. So only worry about the second conjunction, when you have paired conjunction. And some of you have already seen how, all right, if you have a not only, you have to have a but also. They don't have to be next to each other. You could say, during a game, not only the players, but the coach also shows his emotions, so long as there's a but and an also together. Somewhere, they don't have to be next to each other, they just have to be in the last half of the sentence. And then this last one is, when the subject of a sentence are preceded by each or every, both the verb and the pronoun should be singular. So see how it says, each college and university has its own special requirements for admission. Because each tells you that it's singular. So these 2 pages will help you ace, totally ace this test. It seems, it's, like I said, it's the math of grammar, because everything has to match. You can't split things. You can't make one something and one something else. And that's the problem with the announcement that came out last year that said that, yes, guess what? We're not gonna, there is now gonna be singular and plural. No. Remember, we're in English land. English we haven't accepted that as a rule just because APA said it. APA is not the boss of me. So, whereas my department chair is, okay? So, don't lose these pages. Make sure you have them for the test next Friday. And with the notion that I'm going to push the compare and contrast final paper due to a week from Sunday. It's set up for next Friday, but now I'm going to push it back a little. I'm never going to bring stuff up earlier, okay? If I do anything, I'll push it back. And that gives me more time to try to get all of your essays graded, which I've not made a great start on. So, now that we've done that, I hope you have access to your textbook, okay? I have one hard copy here, because what we're going to do, you need to open up your textbook and turn to page 317. Do you have a computer with you? Okay. And I'm going to read an essay to you in there, which is the professional essay. It's really pretty good. And then you're going to answer questions. I'm going to split you up. Yeah, I'll split you up. Probably what I'll do is have Health Center, because there's the most students at Health Center. I'll have them do the odds, and everybody else in my other 3 schools do the evens, okay? But Born to be Different, page 317 in your textbook. I'm going to give you all a second to get there, if we can wake up. So I've been up since before 6 o'clock, because I've got to feed the baby kitten, and my hands look like it looks like I dragged my hand through prickly pear, a cactus. I have all these cute little scratches on it. But we sure are cute little kids. 317, just up in that search box where the little search magnifying glass is. You'll have to scroll down a little bit. It's called Born to be Different. It's a model essay to consider. I will put it up on the board. I'll put it up on the screen. Here we go. Some years ago, when my children were very young, I cut a cartoon out of a magazine and taped it to my refrigerator. It showed a young couple welcoming friends over for Christmas. The host rather proudly announced that instead of dolls, they have given their little daughter her own set of tools. And sure enough, the second panel shows their little girl playing in her room, a wrench in one hand and a hammer in the other. But she's making the wrench say, "Would you like to go to prom, Barbie?" And the hammer answered, "Oh, Ken, I'd love to." Oh my, did that cartoon strike a chord. I grew up with Ms. Magazine and the National Organization of Women, and a firm belief that gender differences were learned, not inborn. Other parents may have believed that pink and baby dolls and kindergarten teaching were for girls. That just sounds frightening to me, kindergartners. There's too many of them, and only one of me. And blue and trucks and engineering were for boys, but by golly, my kids were going to be different. They were going to be raised free of all that harmful gender indoctrination. They were just going to be people. I don't remember exactly when I began to suspect I was wrong. Maybe it was when my 3-year-old son, raised in a no-weapons household, bit his toast into a gun shape and tried to shoot the cat. Maybe it was when his younger brother nearly levitated out of his car seat, joyously crowing, "Backo!" upon spotting his first piece of earth-moving equipment. Maybe it was when my little daughter first lined up her stuffed animals and began teaching them their ABCs and bandaging their boo-boos. It wasn't that my sons couldn't be sweet and sensitive, or that my daughter wasn't sometimes rowdy and boisterous, but I had to rethink my earlier assumptions. Despite my best efforts not to impose gender-specific expectations on them, my boys and my girl were, well, different. Really different. Slowly and hesitantly, medical and psychological researchers have begun confirming my observations. The notion that the differences between the sexes, beyond the obvious anatomical ones, are biologically based is fraught with controversy. Such beliefs can easily be misinterpreted and used as the basis for harmful, oppressive stereotypes. They can be overstated and exaggerated into blanket statements about what men and women can and can't do. I like those quotation marks around it. And about what the genders are good and bad at. And yet the unavoidable fact is that studies are making it ever clearer that, as groups, men and women differ in almost every measurable aspect. Learning about those differences helps us understand why men and women are simultaneously so attracted and fascinated, and yet so frequently stymied and frustrated by the opposite sex. To dig into what it really means to be masculine and feminine helps to depersonalize our responses to one another's behavior, to avoid the my perceptions and behaviors are normal, yours don't make sense trap. Our differences are deep-rooted, hardwired, and present from the moment of conception. To begin with, let's look at something as basic as the anatomy of the brain. Typically, men have larger skulls and brains than women. Don't get too excited, guys. But the sexes score equally well on intelligence tests. This apparent contradiction is explained by the fact that our brains are apportioned differently. Women have about 15% more gray matter than men. Gray matter, made up of nerve cells and the branches that connect them, allows the quick transference of thought from one part of the brain to another. This high concentration of gray matter helps explain women's ability to look at many sides of an argument at once and to do several tasks or hold several conversations simultaneously. For me, I have multiple books I'm reading at the same time. I can keep them, yeah, see, you're such a guy, Rodney. Okay. Men's brains, on the other hand, have a more generous portion of white matter. White matter, which is made up of neurons, actually inhibits the spread of information. So obvious, yeah. It allows men to concentrate very narrowly on a specific task without being distracted by thoughts that might conflict with the job at hand. In addition, men's larger skulls contain more cerebrospinal fluid, which cushions the brain. Scientists theorize that this reflects men's history of engaging in warfare and rough sports, activities which bring with them a high likelihood of having one's head banged about. It does explain a lot, doesn't it? Right there. Okay, sorry. Our brain's very different makeup leads to our very different methods of interacting with the world around us. Simon Baron-Cohen, author of The Essential Difference, Men, Women, and the Extreme Male Brain, has labeled the classic female mental process as empathizing. He defines empathizing as the drive to identify another person's emotions and thoughts and to respond to these with an appropriate emotion. Empathizers are constantly measuring and responding to the surrounding emotional temperature. They are concerned about showing sensitivity to the people around them. This empathetic quality can be observed in virtually all aspects of women's lives, from the choice of typically female-dominated careers, nursing, elementary school teaching, social work, never elementary school for me, y'all. Never was a thought. To reading matter popular mainly with women, romantic fiction, articles about relationships, advice columns about how people can get along better, to women's interactions with one another, which typically involves intimate discussion of relationships with friends and family and sympathy for each other's concerns. So powerful is the empathizing mindset that it even affects how the typical female memory works. Ask a woman when a particular event happened, and she often pinpoints it in terms of an occurrence that had emotional content. That was the summer my sister broke her leg, or that was around the time that Jean and Mary got into such an awful argument. Likewise, she is likely to bring her empathetic mind to bear on geography. I don't. I don't worry about it. I just go. I've got my whatever thing on my phone that I use to travel, so. She'll remember a particular address, not as 11th and Market Streets, but being near the restaurant where we went on our anniversary, or around the corner from Liz's old apartment. In contrast, Baron-Cohen calls the typical male mindset systemizing, which he defines as the drive to analyze and explore a system, to extract underlying rules that govern the behavior of a system. A systemizer is less interested in how people feel than in how things work. Again, the systematic brain influences virtually all aspects of the typical man's life. Male-dominated professions, such as engineering, computer programming, auto repair, and mathematics, rely heavily on systems, formulas, and patterns, and very little on the ability to intuit another person's thoughts or emotions. It explains why I didn't get geometry, I'll tell you. Reading material most popular with men includes science fiction and history, as well as factual how-to magazines on such topics as computers, photography, home repair, and woodworking. When they get together with male friends, men are far less likely to engage in intimate conversation than they are to share an activity, watching or playing sports, working on a car, bowling, golfing, or fishing. Men's conversation is peppered with dates and addresses illustrating their comfort with systems. Back in 1996, when I was living in Boston, or the best way to get to the new stadium is to go all the way out Walnut Street to 33rd and then get on the bypass. That's why men don't like to ask for directions. They think they just know it automatically, right? One final way that men and women differ is in their typical responses to problem solving. Ironically, it may be this very activity intended on both sides to eliminate problems that creates the most conflict between partners of the opposite sex. To a woman, the process of solving a problem is all important. Talking about a problem is a means of deepening the intimacy between her and her partner. The very anatomy of the brain, as well as her accompanying empathetic mindset, makes her want to consider all sides of a question and to explore various possible solutions. To have a partner who is willing to explore a problem with her is deeply satisfying. She interprets that willingness as an expression of the other's love and concern. Are you hearing your wife in here, Rodney? Is this describing her? Yeah. And it's going to describe you next. But men have an almost completely opposite approach when it comes to dealing with the problem. Everything in their mental makeup tells them to focus narrowly on the issue, solve it, and get it out of the way. The ability to fix a problem quickly and efficiently is to them a demonstration of their power and competence. It's your maleness to get it over, solve it fast. When a man hears his female partner begin to describe a problem, his strongest impulse is to listen briefly and then tell her what to do about it. From his perspective, he has made a helpful and loving gesture. From hers, he short-circuited a conversation that could have deepened and strengthened their relationship. The challenge that confronts men and women is to put aside ideas of better and worse when it comes to their many differences. Our diverse brain development, our ways of interacting with the world, and our modes of dealing with problems all have their strong points. In some circumstances, a typically feminine approach may be more effective. In others, a classically masculine mode may have the advantage. Our differences aren't going to disappear. My daughter, now a middle schooler, regularly tells me she loves me, while her teenage brothers express their affection by grabbing me in a headlock. Learning to understand and appreciate one another's gender-specific qualities is the key to more rich and rewarding lives together. And I like this because I think it describes, as a whole, groups, males and females. I see a lot of male tendencies in myself. I want to solve the problem, get it over with. That's what I want to do. I don't want to talk about it. Let's get it done. All right, so, Hale Center, you're going to do the odd number questions. SPC, last buddy, and Wellman Union, you will do the even number questions that follow. Okay? I'm going to give you about 10 minutes or so to get them done, so split them up. And you can work with a partner. So, Haley, sorry, you don't have any partner to work with. Work with yourself, all right? But you guys are welcome to split it up and work that way so that you can get the questions answered more quickly. Like 2 or 3 people do 1, 3, 2 or 3 people do 3, 5, 7, and 9. Hale Center, you know how many people you have in the room. And Wellman Union, just, split it. There's only 4 of you, right? 4, 5? Sitting here thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's just 4. So, Reed, if you want to work with Jackie, you can, or you can work with Rodney, and Jackie and Kayla can work together, okay? So one can be looking in the book, the other can be kind of writing down the answers or whatever. Because I'm going to come back to you, and let me show you, I got so smart all of a sudden yesterday. I figured out I could do this. So that when I ask you for an answer, you can see me listen to the answer, okay? It's a lot easier than trying to move this. Okay, so let's go. So if you're going to work together, you probably need to sit closer together. Just an idea. together. Okay, that's cool. about 5 more minutes. About 2 minutes. Okay, let's do these, all right? I'm going to read the questions and then I'll do it. So the first one goes to Hale Center. Which of the following statements best represents the implied thesis of born to be different? Let me scooch over here. See if can I hear you, maybe? Or the microphone's not working at all in Hale Center?
They working?
Okay, all right. So was it A, B, C, or D?
A.
You guys went with A, okay. I agree with you, okay? So you guys can write these down. This is an excellent example of a professional essay, by the way. Although the author believed that gender differences were learned rather than inborn, that's what the first few paragraphs talk about. Experience with her own children convinced her otherwise. That's the implied thesis, okay? Though some of these others are ideas in that beginning, that's the main one. Okay, so number 2 goes to Wellman, Haley over at Last Buddy, and my SPC students, which is, which statement would best serve as a topic sentence for paragraphs 6 and 7? So let me pick on Haley, and I'll get her out of the way. Which one did you think, Haley?
I thought it was A.
You thought it was A? Wellman Union, what about y'all? What did you think? What'd you think? Microphones aren't working at all? Okay, well, we're gonna do sign language because we have to do that. This would be A, this would be B, this is C, and like this is D. So which one do you think? A, B, A, okay, I'm seeing A. How about SB? It works, guys, it works. So SBC, y'all go with A. Yeah, it's A. If you look at it, it says, because of their different construction, men's and women's brains function differently. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Okay, so now we're going back over to Health Center. If I just flip on my book, then I don't have to go back and forth. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? Okay. Number 3, Health Center. I'll go do my standing version of teaching. There's a podium. Maybe if I could bring the podium over here to work. Okay. So what you come up with is, what statement below would best serve as the topic sentence of paragraph 11?
D.
Say that louder.
D.
D. Okay, I agree with you. Men's approach to problem solving is the opposite of women's. That's so very true. I'm gonna have to move that over. Awesome. Okay, coming back over to number 4, because all of that was about unity. Now we're talking about support. Paragraph 8 states that the empathizing mindset can be observed in virtually all aspects of women's lives. What evidence does Lewis prove that supports this claim? I'll start off with SBC this time. Just give me one piece of evidence that she uses to support it. What? List of jobs. Okay, that is correct, Jackie. How about somebody at Wellman Union? Oh, that's right, we can't hear you. Okay, so, can you, we've already had jobs, there's 2 others. Okay, I will skip y'all since I can't hear you at all, okay? All right, Haley, what did you come up with? Give me one of yours. It's not jobs.
Books that women read?
Yeah, that's right. It's what they read. Okay? And then there are ways of the third one, which I'm sure Wellman Union would have given me, was jobs, reading material, and their interaction with the world. Okay? And it's actually listed in there. Okay? So we go on to question 5, and we're going back to Health Center. According to the author, what are the 3 major differences between men and women? This is basically the criteria that are being evaluated, is what's being asked. So what did y'all get for that, Health Center?
The 3 differences are brain development, ways of interacting with the world, and our modes of dealing with problems.
Awesome. You found that thesis statement that was in the conclusion, didn't you? There was a thesis statement in the conclusion that gave you the 3 sections, which are, let's see, the actual anatomy of the brain, the ways the brain's developed, the ways of interacting with the world, and problem solving. Okay, so come back to, Haley, I'm coming back to you, all right? So we're on number 7. Number 6, has the author presented her evidence one side at a time or point by point? We can just do, Wellman Union, you can do this one. This is one point, right? One side at a time, or this is point by point. See, I'm pointing by pointing. Okay. So which did you think, Wellman Union? One side or pointing and point? Okay, they're doing point by point. What do you think, SBC? One side or point by point? Point by point. Haley, one side or point by point? Yeah, point by point. This is an alternating or point by point method. What's different about this one is that instead of there being 5 paragraphs in the total essay, each of the points, one deals with women, and it always deals with women first, and then it deals with men. So you have 6 body paragraphs that are looking at the 3 individual points. Your essays aren't going to be this long. This is probably between 1,500 and 2,000 words. So I don't want you to write that much because I have to grade that much. I want you 600, 700, 800 max. Be careful about going over 800, okay? Have you decided topics yet? Ooh, that's something to consider. You need to because you have an outline due Friday, okay? All right, point by point, but it's an excellent version of that. Okay, so Health Center, I gave you the long one. What's the breakdown on what paragraphs belong to what section? So the introduction is what paragraph?
Paragraph 1.
Only paragraph 1?
1 through 5.
Say that again? I heard only paragraph 1 and then I heard
1 through 5.
Say it again.
1 through 5.
1 through 5. Yes, the introduction on this one is actually 5 paragraphs. The first one is an anecdote. The second one is more anecdotes, and then we start talking about researchers. So you don't get through the introduction until paragraph 5. You can't do that. Your introduction needs to be 1 paragraph long, okay? How about, what paragraphs are the first point?
6 and 7.
6 and 7. Second point is then
8 and 9.
8 and 9. Third point is
10, 11.
10, 11. And that leads the conclusion to paragraph 12.
12.
Good job. Good job. Okay. SPC. What are the 3 contrast signals used to introduce the main supporting paragraphs in the essay? I'm just going to ask SPC right now, so we can get, okay. So give me one. Caleb, did you get to this? Okay. Who got to it? Reed, did you? Rodney? Jackie? Okay, it's a contrasting. Okay, so it has, remember on that, oh, you weren't here for the PowerPoint. On the PowerPoint, it listed all those conjunctive adverbs that have the opposites, okay? So, for instance, in paragraph 7, if you can scroll back to 7, it says, in 7 it says, on the other hand, isn't that contrasting? That's a contrasting transition or signal, I guess. And then I also saw, Haley, you can verify me on this, that in paragraph 9, you have in contrast to. In contrast, it begins with in contrast. That's see, contrast is the opposite, okay? And then the last one that I found easily was 10. Oh, that's not a good one. Oh, one final way that men and women differ. It's a long phrase is what it is. That signals it's going to be the opposite. Okay, so it's a little bit, yeah. So you don't have to use a signal, transition signal of one word. It can be a whole phrase, but you have to make sure it's in there. Okay, Health Center, about the introduction and/or conclusion. Which method best describes the introductory paragraph in the essay? A, B, or C? A, B, C. Okay. I'm seeing C, which is an anecdote. What do y'all think? It is a story, I will give you that. But is it not also the opposite? To me, it's a combination of B and C. You know what an anecdote is? It's a fancy word for a short story. It's just a quick little narrative that sets you up. So I see this as being both, because it's the opposite. I swore that it's, you learn those behaviors, and come to find out, it's part of us physically. How about if you didn't get not 8, you probably didn't get 10. Which common method of conclusion does the essay end with? This is a summary and a final thought. It goes over the main points, okay? All right, so